and the court said no.
Breaking news, Justin Baldoni just got a big win, meaning Blake Lively got a big loss. Are her lawyers dumb?
Blake Lively's case just slapped down their psychopathic request.
Have you ever seen a Hollywood court battle so bizarre it felt more like a twisted spectacle than reality? That's precisely how onlookers described the moment Blake Lively entered a federal courthouse, seemingly convinced she could bend the legal system to her will. This hearing was supposed to cement her claim that she'd been unfairly targeted by actor and producer Justin Baldoni. Instead, she found herself facing a judge who had zero patience for star power. The result was a fiasco so monumental that even her most loyal fans were left wondering what went wrong. Blake's legal team stunned observers by demanding 2.5 years of Baldoni's phone records, messages, and location data. Critics called it a shameless fishing expedition, and the judge quickly expressed doubt. Why would she need his GPS data stretching back long before any alleged defamation took place? Baldoni's counsel labeled the request a form of harassment, while Blake's attorneys insisted it was essential for uncovering his motives. Yet the court wasn't buying it. After a brief review, the judge slashed the scope to just 4 months of records and warned that Blake's approach seemed wildly disproportionate. As if that blow weren't enough, the court announced it would offer a live audio feed for the next hearing. No red carpet illusions, no selective press coverage. Anyone could tune in and form their own conclusions. In an industry built on crafted narratives, the unfiltered reality promised to be more damaging than any tabloid rumor. Producers, agents, and insiders braced themselves. For Blake, it was a nightmare scenario. Her every courtroom word and misstep available for the world to dissect in real time. Before the dust settled, rumors of a leaked audio file reached fever pitch. In hushed conversations around town, people whispered about a recording that featured Ari Emanuel, a Hollywood heavyweight, openly discussing how Blake and her husband Ryan Reynolds had pushed for Baldoni's removal from various projects. If verified, it would shred Blake's claim that she'd been blindsided by Baldoni's alleged smear campaign. Instead, she'd be recast as the driving force behind a blacklisting effort, upending her public image as a champion of fairness. On social media, fans clashed. Some claimed the leak was fake, while others saw it as undeniable proof of Blake's duplicity. Baldoni supporters crowed that the audio exposed her for orchestrating a vendetta. Legal experts noted that if the judge allowed the recording as evidence, Blake's case could collapse under the weight of her own contradictions. She had painted herself as a victim, but the leaked files suggested she and Ryan were the ones wielding power behind the scenes. Through all this, one glaring question emerged. Where were Blake's Hollywood allies? She'd once been photographed laughing with A-listers at glitzy events, championing women's empowerment, but those same acquaintances offered zero public support. Taylor Swift, a former confidant, stayed quiet. Gigi Hadid vanished from the conversation. Insiders hinted that nobody wanted to be tied to a potential fiasco involving blacklisting. If the audio leak proved true, rallying behind Blake would carry serious risk. Adding to the chaos was a new name in Blake's camp, Nick Shapiro, a former CIA deputy chief of staff. This wasn't your ordinary publicist. He specialized in controlling high-stakes narratives. The revelation that an intelligence figure was cleaning up her Hollywood scandal sent shockwaves through the community. Critics wondered why she needed such extreme measures. Was she simply determined to reclaim her narrative? Or was this proof she'd do anything to salvage her reputation? Suddenly, every negative story about Baldoni took on a suspicious glow. A major newspaper published a piece suggesting he had skeletons in his closet, but many observed that it appeared right after Shapiro joined Blake's team. The timing felt too neat. Was it a coincidence or part of a coordinated campaign? Allegations flew that Blake was using her resources to smear Baldoni even while accusing him of doing the same. Meanwhile, Judge Louis Lyman continued to show little interest in coddling Hollywood's elite. He shot down Blake's subpoena demands, calling them overly broad, then quoted her own lawsuit to highlight her contradictory timeline. If she believed Baldoni's supposed smear campaign started in August, how could she justify prying into his life stretching back years? Witnesses in the courtroom said she looked visibly tense, conferring frantically with her attorneys. The live audio feed would soon allow everyone to hear how her legal team handled these pointed questions. Observers say the judge's decision to open the proceedings publicly might change how Hollywood navigates defamation cases. Typically, star litigants rely on secrecy to manage public perception, but that advantage evaporates with a live broadcast. For Blake, it meant no curated statements could overshadow the raw exchange between attorneys and judge. If she hoped to control the narrative, those hopes diminished the second a public feed became a reality. Studio insiders confessed they'd never seen such a brazen example of courtroom transparency for a celebrity of her stature. Baldoni, on the other hand, appeared calm. Rumor had it he was compiling evidence that showed how Blake and Ryan had influenced executives to exclude him. Leaked emails supposedly revealed direct pressure placed on certain producers. If those emails were authenticated, it would prove Blake had orchestrated the very career sabotage she blamed on Baldoni. Worse yet, insiders whispered about a possible countersuit from Baldoni. Should he file, Blake's strategy could backfire in a devastating way. All her attempts at prying into his life might simply pile up as evidence of her overreach. Perhaps most surprising was Ryan Reynolds' absence. Known for quick-witted public commentary, he was uncharacteristically silent. That radio silence fueled speculation that he might be distancing himself, or else quietly orchestrating a behind-the-scenes defense. Either way, the public took note. The same man who'd garnered love for his comedic takes on social media said nothing about the legal inferno threatening to engulf his wife. Some wondered if he too feared that further scrutiny might drag him deeper into the looming scandal. Outside the courtroom, Blake faced widespread ridicule. Memes labeled her a Hollywood Karen, poking fun at her perceived sense of entitlement. The backlash wasn't limited to anonymous trolls. It spilled into mainstream talk shows, with commentators questioning how someone who spoke so passionately about women's rights could resort to intimidation tactics against a fellow actor. The optics were awful, and each rumor or leaked detail drove the wedge deeper between her and any sympathetic audience. Former colleagues started sharing cryptic statements, hinting at behind-the-scenes power moves they'd witnessed firsthand. Some loyal fans insisted that Blake was merely defending herself, that her requests for information were a legitimate reaction to Baldoni's alleged campaign against her. Yet that argument lost traction each time a new detail emerged, showing how far she was willing to go. If she had real evidence, why lean on extreme tactics like subpoenaing, personal doctor visits, and location data reaching back too far? Skepticism soared, and her critics felt vindicated. Even fence-sitters noted how her subpoenas seemed aimed at fishing for dirt rather than uncovering specific proof. Witnesses described how tense Blake seemed in court, her expression darkening whenever the judge reminded her that celebrity status held no sway within those walls. She allegedly whispered in frustration to her lawyers, who appeared visibly flustered. Few doubted she regretted initiating such a high-stakes legal confrontation. In the days following her tense courtroom appearance, rumors of an outright emotional collapse surfaced. Insiders recounted hushed conversations where Blake snapped at her attorneys, demanding to know how her plan had failed so spectacularly. One source claimed she even threatened to fire her entire legal team unless they found a way to salvage her case. Others whispered about frantic midnight calls to Ryan, who seemed either unwilling or unable to diffuse her panic. On social media, eyewitnesses described seeing her exit the courthouse looking shaken, her face etched with frustration. Speculation ran wild. Was her marriage buckling under the strain? Would she issue a public apology? Or was she digging in, determined to fight even if it meant alienating fans and colleagues? Meanwhile, a handful of lesser-known industry figures hinted they'd been approached for statements favoring Blake, suggesting a last-ditch effort to bend the narrative before the live audio feed exposed it all. The more she struggled to appear in control, the more rumors swirled that she was losing her grip. If her star power couldn't sway a judge, critics wondered, could it sway an increasingly skeptical public? For a woman used to winning hearts on the big screen, this new reality must have felt crushing. It was a storm few believed she could truly weather. If that weren't enough, the alleged blacklisting saga gained more traction once people realized how crucial the live audio might be. They were eager to hear any mention of private deals or secret instructions from Blake's team to Ari Emanuel. Was there a string of messages that confirmed her role in sidelining Baldoni? Curiosity soared, reminding everyone that Hollywood thrives on hidden dynamics, but once exposed, they can bring down even the biggest names. Some in Blake's circle quietly admitted they were worried about lasting fallout. If she lost this case, it could tarnish her reputation beyond repair, making studios cautious about tying their projects to her. In an environment where perception influences revenue, a protracted scandal can be lethal to a career. Fewer high-profile directors might consider her for serious roles, fearing negative headlines and potential boycotts. Then came murmurs that Baldoni was on the brink of filing a defamation countersuit. If successful, it could push Blake into an even darker corner. Not only would she face a shattered public image, but she might also endure significant financial penalties. This scenario seemed like a cautionary tale of how quickly power can flip in the entertainment world. One minute you're untouchable, the next you're teetering on the brink of cultural exile. Still, a handful of supporters believe Blake might stage a comeback. Perhaps she'll produce damning evidence that cements her version of events, salvaging her reputation and pinning the blacklisting scandal squarely on Baldoni's shoulders. Yet with each leaked email, each rumor about CIA-level PR maneuvers, that possibility looks more remote. Every storyline underscores a creeping sense that Blake orchestrated much of this turmoil herself, only to be undone by her own overreach. As the next court date approaches, everyone is bracing for seismic aftershocks. If the live audio feed reveals a flurry of contradictions, it could seal Blake's fate in the court of public opinion. And if Ryan finally steps forward, will he offer a defense that redeems his wife? Or will his words merely confirm the darkest suspicions about their behind-the-scenes tactics? No one can say with certainty how this will all end. Maybe Blake will emerge vindicated. Maybe Baldoni's countersuit will crush her defenses. The only guarantee is that the world will be listening, straining to catch every word echoing through the courtroom. The entire spectacle has peeled back Hollywood's glitzy veneer, exposing an underbelly where influence can make or break a career with a single phone call. Now, with the judge's glare fixed on Blake, all that remains is to see whether she can survive the very spotlight she once seemed to command. The entire industry now awaits this climax with bated breath, uncertain who will emerge triumphant.